As you guys likely know, Business by Design is a program that we promote each and every year. And when we do, I get to work with a handful of amazing students, helping them grow their business, fix their messaging, and navigate James Wedmore's Business by Design. Well, last year, we had a student come on. Her name was and she started asking me a ton of questions about messaging, thought reversals, and growing her business. Well, in the last year, she's been interviewed by Katie Couric. She's had an amazing TED Talk that was influenced off of a thought reversal and the thought reversal framework. I brought her on today's podcast to talk to you about how she left her job as a professor, became a disruptor, started a business around her message, and used Business by Design and our mentorship as an affiliate of Business by Design to grow a six-figure business. This story is unbelievable. Her message is something that I'm passionate about, and I can't wait to share it with you inside of this episode. So keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. We have an amazing interview lined up for you today. I'm super excited to bring this guest on because this is someone that I have helped over the last year or two, and I've seen amazing things from her and her business. And today I get to welcome Dr. I onto the podcast. So welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Brandon. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here, and I'm excited to kind of tell your story. So before we get started, do you mind just telling everyone a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yeah, I am a professor turned entrepreneur, and I left my college professor position, which is another crazy story. So I left that to start my own business. I work with teenagers and young adults to help them become career and life ready, using my own curriculum and our own teaching methodology.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to talk about that because your message is one that I really believe in. It's pretty aligned with things that I say and talk about as well. So let's talk a little bit about why you became an entrepreneur. Like, why did you stop being a professor, stop that like traditional educational system and move into entrepreneurship?
Yeah. And oh my God, such a long story so after I got my master from Syracuse and I got my PhD from University of Maryland. So until that point, I learned how to teach from my professors. So I never learned how to teach. And the only way I learned was from my professors. So after teaching in the classroom for 10 plus years, doing what I'm supposed to do, and I started to notice that my students, there were no spark in their eyes. Most students were learning for the sake of learning, right? And the most common question, I mentioned this in my TEDx talk, I got as a college professor was, hey, Dr. I, will this be on the exam? And after receiving that question for 10 plus years, I think you knew that something was not working. And clearly you can see that nobody was interested in learning. I remember every time I cancel a class, and my students, they would be like so excited. Hey, hooray, class is canceled. I was like, wow, you guys paid so much money to be there in the class. And now I had to cancel a class and you were so excited. So those are some of the questions to really challenge me to question the way that we're teaching the next generation. And so that's kind of the professional level. And personally, I was also feeling very stressed. Like I feel like 70% of what I did was to perpetuate the broken education model. 30% of what I did was to serve the students, but it shouldn't be like that. So I was trying so hard to fit in, to perpetuate the model. So personally, I was overworking all the time. And like professors don't really make that much money. I feel like I was also broke, overworked, and very stressed and very depressed. And at the same time, I became a mom. So I noticed that my own children, When they were young, 3 years old, 4 years old, they were so curious about everything. And after we send them to school, they'll be like, we started to notice changes in our kids. They were not as curious, as imaginative as they were before. So all of those kind of 2 layers combined, I decided to reinvent myself.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And there's so many questions I want to ask. And I do want to talk about what that transition was like, what it was like going into entrepreneurship. But I kind of want to go back to the problem that you were seeing. And I wanted to just ask, what do you think the problem was? Was it like that colleges required people to take classes that they shouldn't be taking? Is it a lack of passion? Like, what really is at the root of the problem with the educational system? And that might be a loaded question, so I'll let you answer it however you want, but I'm just kind of curious as to what the problem was.
Yeah. And I think, I have nothing against, when I start to share my message, which I'm really grateful for you, Brandon, really helped me nail down on my message. But when I started to share my message, and so many professors felt like I was against them, but I was not against teachers. I was against the system. And so I think at the system level, there are so many issues. First, like you probably know this, and my entrepreneur journey is very short, but I have learned so much from my failures and mistakes. Every failure, I learned something and it really helped me get to the next level. But when you look at most students, when you ask them, hey guys, how do you feel about failures and mistakes? Every single one of them will tell you, oh my God, I'm scared, because the system punishes failures and mistakes, right? So learning, there has to be that motivation or emotion. Learning is an emotional journey. For people like us, we learn something because we're excited about this, right? Business is so exciting. This is so exciting. But for most children, as they grow older, that driving emotion is fear. Oh my God, I don't want to lose a point. I don't want to be punished. Is my teacher calling me out? Oh my God, what is she talking about? So that fear is going to drive our students crazy, right? Fear can only push you so far. So that is the entire education model, especially high school, college level, is based on fear, right? From one grade to the next grade, you have to get an A, a passing grade. If you get a C or C minus, you will be punished, whatever consequence will happen to you. So that's reason number one, where I think the system is fundamentally broken, because we need to figure out a way where we can celebrate. That's when my students join my program. I celebrate, ask my own children, what is a mistake, a good mistake that you made today? So we can celebrate that. But no students will do that, right? So that's number one. The second is that students are, when you look at their life, 10 plus years in school, they allow a standardized curriculum to dictate their daily life, right? Brandon, if I tell you, 8 a.m. you have to get up, at 9 a.m. you have to learn literature, 10 a.m. you have to learn business, and then you take a break, you go to the bathroom, 1 p.m. you do this. So everything is so structured. By the time the students get to a college level, that is the population I have been working with for such a long time, they have no idea who they are. They have no idea why they need to learn that. Their agency is killed by this system. They have no idea. And that's why you don't see the spark. That's why you ask them, hey, what do you think? I don't know if you hire fresh college graduates. Most of them have no ideas. But I don't think it's their fault. It's really the system is designed to make them not to think, so that we can manipulate them, we can control the class, things like that. So that is another level. This standardized curriculum really leaves little autonomy for our students to discover who they are, what they want to do. Because I feel like learning is about uncover who you are. Not so much I teach you, I cover everything, but I show up as a facilitator. What we say is the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. But so many school models still follow the sage on the stage model. And that is killing their innovation and interest. And research has even shown that a grade point average is inversely related to innovation. The higher the grade, the less likely a kid is to innovate. So those are just some of the
so interesting.
answers.
because I was talking to my wife. There's so many things I want to say, but
I know. Sorry, I
no,
talk
I
too
love
much. I
all of
just
it, and
like,
all of it makes so much sense. And this is something that I firmly believe. I believe that the current education system is broken, especially because the future is so unknown and it's changing so much. But the model of how we prepare our kids for the future hasn't changed in the last 50 years. Like there needs to be change in the way we bring up our kids, how we teach them success, how they learn, to make them critical thinkers. I believe in all of that stuff. Um, but what's really interesting, and I was telling my wife this the other day, I was like, man, when we look, because our 20-year high school reunion's coming up, and I said, when I look back at the people
oh,
who had the best grades, like they're the ones who are like stuck in jobs. And I say stuck in jobs, they may not feel stuck, but they're like career driven, they're like working all the time. And the ones that were like me, like I had a B average. I mean, I wasn't failing, but I wasn't like a straight A
mm,
student. B's and C's. Almost every single one of my friends who got B's and C's actually owns a business right now, and they have the most amount of freedom and time that anyone has. Like I just ran into one of them the other day at a restaurant, and he was like, yeah, my business, I've been running it for like 8 years. I work 2 days a week. I go cycling like 3 days a week. Another day's dedicated to just me and my wife. And then another day's family day. And like, that's his life. He works 2 days a week. But again, it's all
mm,
people that kind of went against the grain, didn't get straight A's, weren't like, oh my gosh, like you said, getting into this fear about grades and all of this stuff. Um, and I want to just highlight what you said about celebrating mistakes. Sarah Blakely, the founder of, oh gosh, what is it? The
mm.
founder of Spanx, told a story where her dad at the dinner table would ask them, her and her brother, what did you fail at today? And they would celebrate failure. And she
Mhm.
learned, like you, exactly what you said. She learned to celebrate failures, and she contributes that to her success. And so, I mean, I agree with
Yeah.
everything that you say. I believe in it full heartedly. So my questions, yeah,
Can I also add kind of
yeah.
another point based on what you said? And one of my favorite books is A students work for C students, B students work for the
Whoa.
government. So check it
That's the
out.
name of a book?
I have a feeling you may like that. Yes, I have a long list. I can send it to you. I have a long list of books that are very
Okay.
disruptive. Like my friend and I we actually wrote a book called "Skip the Degree,
Oh
Save
my
the
gosh.
Tuition," and like, why are you still sending your children to school? Like, I have a long list of books, but this one, what you just said, A students work for C students, B students work for the government. It is the
I,
title of the book. Yeah,
I,
exactly. That's what I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. And again, even with my own kids, we're looking at different ways to educate them and different options for school. And we landed on a monastery based school. And one of the things that was
Mm,
important for us was like, can we pull our kids in and out and travel with us, because we want to start traveling more. And they said they encourage that, and they encourage those life experiences, and they encourage like critical
mm,
thinking. And we'll ask them questions about what lessons did you learn on this trip. And it's just a different way of educating, even just small things
absolutely.
like they said, if your son or daughter is at a higher level in math, we will move them to higher level math instead of wait a year. Even if their
Mm.
English is still at the grade level, we will facilitate that they continue to grow. It makes them no wait sense to
Ah,
wait for, hold them back in these. So small things like that we really loved. And I do think that the education system needs to change. And I could talk to you about this for hours, but let's let's bring
I
it back
love
down
it. Yeah.
to the business side of it for a second. So when you made that transition from professor to entrepreneur, and you it sounds like you were getting a little bit of pushback from some of your fellow professors. What was it like? Like, what did you have to do? Were there any hurdles you had to overcome to like finally leave that and then become an entrepreneur? What was that journey like for you?
Oh my God, there were so many. And I got bullied because I think it's one thing you talk about the problems in education when you don't have a number of degrees, right? For me, someone who has so many degrees, and I think people look at you
Mhm.
very differently when you are talking about the problems in education. I think because of that, I really got bullied a lot. But I think the hardest part in terms of this transition was identity shift because until this point, the only identity I had socially constructed for myself was being a
Mm.
college professor. Outside of that identity, okay, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, like I had nothing else, right? So all of a sudden, I was losing that identity, but I had no idea who is this new person that I was becoming. That was a very, very scary feeling. And then on top of that, I got bullied. But the bully part affected me, but I was really losing the identity. That's why, I love what you do. And I think entrepreneurship is so much about the
Mm.
mindset stuff, the internal transformation, which is definitely reflected
Right.
externally. And so yeah, for me, it was really this internal, like, okay, I'm moving away from that identity. Who is this new person? It's
Yeah.
like teenager, right? I re-experienced teenagerhood, like trying to rediscover who I am, because for so many years, I was being an obedient follower. I thought my 4.0 GPA, I went to Maryland, Syracuse, amazing schools. I got so many awards, like you name it. I thought that would bring me the success that I was
Right.
promised to. I didn't get anything other than, being stressed, all of that. So I was like, moving away from that identity to embody a new one that I had no idea who is this new I that I was
Right.
becoming. I cried so much. That was like the hardest part of this transition. It's not about learning business, learning Facebook ads. I think that is the easier part because you know how to do it. The internal transformation, there's no
Right.
roadmap. You just have to go through this. It's like giving birth, right? You just have to do this to get to the next
Yeah,
level.
it's yeah, like you said, it doesn't have a roadmap per se. Like to learn Facebook ads, you can like follow a blueprint here, do this, click this button, do this thing. But to go through an internal shift, it is like a self-discovery. There's a lot of invisible elements that you have to uncover.
Mm.
I do want to ask a couple questions about the bullying, if that's okay. And I'm just more curious as to who the bullying was from. Was it from colleagues and stuff like that? Okay.
Professors, yes, from people are so defensive. They're so defensive. They feel like I'm criticizing them, but I'm not. I'm like talking about the education model even. And so I recently did this TEDx talk. I really have to thank you for giving me the courage to title
Mm.
my TEDx talk the title it is today, because I was like, oh my God, because I survived being bullied. I don't want to be bullied again. But now I'm like, I just need to own
Right.
my message so that I can attract the people who resonate with my message. People who are not resonating, I don't even need to care about them. So yeah, so mainly people who are still inside the system. People like you, like I so
Right.
agree, blah, blah, blah. But people who are still inside the system, they're not okay. And even when I shared Google, I think last year they launched their own career certificates to replace the
Mm.
4-year college. So I mentioned that was not from me. Oh my God. I got like lots of people sending me DM messages. They were like, no, this is our territory. Google cannot do this. Only us can teach communication, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. So I got messages like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Well, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
People don't like change. And it goes back to what you said too. It's also an attack on their identity. When their identity is wrapped up and here's what I do, and that I went to school for this, and they spent 10 years of their life or more like dedicated to learning this stuff. And then you go the opposite, it almost dismisses everything that they've done. It is a hard pill for people to swallow, but it is still shocking to me that adults, college professors would be bullying. But it does make sense because that identity is so huge and a huge piece. When you made that,
And
yeah,
to
go
follow
ahead.
up on this, sorry. And I mean, like, when you ask me this question, I can actually talk without crying. But in 2017, when I was going through the transition, every time when people ask me this question, I was like, so I think I'm proud of myself for the transition because of how much inner
Yeah.
work I have done.
And I
So just
want to talk about that too, is when you made that identity shift, did you know the identity you were shifting to was going to be business owner and entrepreneur, or did you know that you just didn't want to do that anymore?
I got so tired of sick of academia. I just like, and plus another thing is, in academia, I said earlier, 70% of what we did was to perpetuate the system. So in academia, and I feel like they don't really care that much about the students. They care more about the
Mhm.
school's ranking. They care more about how many publications their teachers have, because that's the only thing that mattered. And so that to me, that was just like, you're a teacher, you're supposed to really care for the students. But anyway, so I left that identity. I got so tired of that. I had no idea. I tried quite a few different things and away from academia, but I had no idea what I
Okay.
wanted to do in life,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. Yeah, it was,
How did you
yeah.
uncover it? Like what was the process?
I think funny enough, because I was teaching social media classes, so I was a typical professor, right? You teach this, you don't have to practice this. So I spent quite a few years teaching public relations, communication, social media courses. And so in 2015, I started to realize how broken the model is. And then I challenged myself to practice what I was teaching my students. That was my first big aha moment of, duh, I need to practice this, right? And then after I started to practice the homework, the assignments that I was giving to my students, and I started to slowly build an organic personal brand. And that was kind of my business idea. And I think, yeah, maybe in 2017, I started to make some money from my speaking in different countries, talking about education. I also started a live streaming channel. When I started my live streaming channel was, again, I realized the limitation in terms of what I do as a college professor, because I only knew this little in terms of, I have no practice, nothing. So I started to interview people, like I even interviewed Seth Godin, Mark Schaefer, quite a few big name people, so that my students can use me as a vehicle to learn what actually matters. So doing that, that's where I developed the name Classroom Without Walls to really tap into live streaming. So I have been live streaming for 4 years. I started really because of how much I care about my students. So that personal brand has generated some income. I was like, wow, maybe I can do something with it. So that's, I guess that's kind of the beginning. Like, yeah, what can I do with my personal
That's amazing.
brand?
So if I understand correctly, it was like you just started teaching social media classes and then you wanted to practice what you preach and then you just need to figure out what to talk about. You started talking about, Classroom Without Walls, and then that just took off. So it was more of just like, hey, I just want to show my students how to do this. And then, and then it took off. I love
Exactly.
that.
And also noticing and understanding how little I knew. I didn't have anything, like my degree was from so many years ago. I had no idea, like I can teach them. I can tell you even today, all the theories, but they are not really relevant to undergraduate students. I feel like college education is to train college professors. If you want to go become a professor, go to a school, get all the degrees. But most people don't want to become a professor. Why do they have to learn so many theories? But so, yeah, that's where I decided to interview all those amazing people. I interviewed lots of like really influential people. And so my students, they message me, oh my goodness, Dr. I learned so much in this one live streaming session than my entire business class. I was like, so that makes me feel so happy.
We get comments like that every once in a while with our stuff too. And I just think it's the way the process is for like higher education and college. It's like the world outside here is changing so fast, like social media and marketing and business, the way it's done is changing so fast that by the time you create a curriculum, you created a standardized way of doing it, putting it into schools, it's like already outdated because it's changing so fast. And that's been my biggest thing is like, there's so much change. How on earth are you even supposed to like have a college degree? Because when they start at year one, by the time 4 years is up, like it's already different. And so that's why it's
exactly. I mean, academic publication on average can take at least 1 year, right? And even for us, go through to review our course curriculum, title, everything. You have to go through accreditation, and that is another entire process. So, like, you just cannot innovate. It's like it's not a startup company; it's an institution. Everything is so institutionalized. You have to go through layers of approval. I remember even when I needed to change my course title, I had to fill out a form to go through layers of approval. I was like, you know what? Let's just keep this title, whatever. So it just makes change very hard.
It makes sense. I keep wanting to go back to what's wrong with the school system or education system. So I think we need to have you back on another podcast just to talk specifically to that.
I have so much. I read so many books. I have so much to say about this. And again, like working with you really gave me this courage to own my message. And I started to call myself like a disruptor. I added that title on my LinkedIn. I was even created a physical planner, and that's really how recently I got interviewed
Oh, you
by Katie
did?
Couric. And yes, and not only that, the interview is featured in Glamour. It was my first time being
Wow.
featured in Glamour. And it was amazing. I already got so many views. Oh, it's crazy that they discover me because of my message, and also because I think because of
Yeah.
LinkedIn, social media. Yeah,
Well,
it's crazy. But
that's what I
really
want to talk
learn.
about
Yeah.
next. And so, like I said, we'll have you back on just to talk about the school stuff and how do we change it. But I want to talk about, like, let's keep going with the business. So you started your business, you're doing the social media and it's kind of taking off, you're making money. And then now we know you got featured in Glamour, Katie Couric interviewed you, you had an amazing TED Talk that got featured on their website. How did you go from having us like doing social media, getting some traction to that and where you're at now? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I'm definitely still in the early stage. I officially resigned in 2019. So my summer 2019, the last semester I taught in the classroom, oh my God, was spring 2019. So like my journey is very short, but I didn't really quit my job right away. So 2017, I was thinking about reinventing myself. I was trying this and that, losing that identity. And I didn't want to quit until I actually have seen
Yep.
some cash flow. Like, okay, this idea may work because, have husband,
Right.
we have our children. So I didn't quit right away, but I was already thinking about it. So I tried different ideas. So initially I was thinking about, okay, I know something about social media, like live streaming really helped me build a reputation. Like this educator I also got interviewed by Inside Higher Education, Pearson Education, like quite a few, and Forbes, and quite a few large publications. They talked about some of my innovative pedagogical approaches in the classroom. I was like, okay, so maybe I can teach other educators how to live stream. So I actually started that. I did the entire course. I didn't, I recorded the videos, everything, and then I launched. I didn't tell anyone, just kind of working behind, and then I did this course, spent lots of time. Nobody bought the
Oh my
course.
gosh.
And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awful. And I was like, because I really didn't know anything about marketing, about business. And so I had no idea. And so at that time, I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be working with the teachers because they don't have money. So things like that, I tried quite a few different ideas. And not until I think a bit later, 2019, after I officially resigned, and I started to treat this, okay, there's really no job anymore. And I need to treat this more seriously. And then that's when I started to really work hard to develop my own curriculum, my own methodology based on what I see as the missing links, like my IP, right? I started to really work on my IP. And now I started with one-on-one coaching. And last year, I crossed the 6-figure mark, which is very exciting to me because I could never make that much as a teacher. You really don't get paid much, mainly through organic marketing. So right now I'm at a new phase, and you also give me the courage to do Facebook ads. So I'm like starting to do Facebook ads. I'm kind of in the transition stage now to finishing up on all of the one-on-one clients because I got really burned out. But they did help me kind of craft and refine my curriculum because they give me immediate feedback. So the curriculum is pretty solid now. So I'm at the new phase doing more paid advertising and getting started to launch my group coaching program. So so I tried a few programs that didn't really work not until like 2019, the end of 2019, I started to really work on my IP to create this, start working with one-on-one. But I have to say that working with the coaches, I'm such an advocate of working with coaches because they really help you shorten your learning curve. I was making so many mistakes on my own, but all the coaches like James Wedmore, he will tell you that like monetize before you launch it, right? That was my very first mistake. I was spending hours doing this course. I didn't even test the market. I didn't tell anyone. No, I only talked about it once. I was like, okay, I failed. And but like learning and working with coaches and has really, really helped me shorten my learning curve significantly. I'm really, really thankful.
And I I struggled for like 4 or 5 years when I started my business. And the biggest reason is because I was stubborn. I thought I knew it all. I thought I could do it myself. And then
Mm.
the universe shoved Jim Fortin and James Wedmore into my life. And then those two have been amazing mentors to take me from like living with my in-laws to a multi-million dollar business owner. And I know you joined Business by Design, which is opening up pretty soon. And you got to get inside Business by Design. And it sounds like that, like following James's process and his mentorship is kind of what gave you that business guidance to figuring out how to launch and how to sell. Is that correct?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot from James Wedmore, and so
Okay.
yeah, definitely. I also gained a lot from. So I joined
Yep.
BBD through you because I think I discovered you through James
Yep.
Wedmore's podcast, and so you were a guest. So that's how I discovered you and follow you kind of on and off on social media on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, I know that I really, especially my messaging is very. I had some emotional scars
Yeah.
regarding my messaging, and I want to speak from my heart, but always my head is telling me, no, you can't say this. Think about like all the other educators. How would they think about you? Things like that. So I think that was something missing in my business. So I decided right away to join BBD through you, and I just like your thought
Yeah.
reversal, like training workshop on thought reversal. It was a paradigm shift for me. Like it was so powerful. I was like, wow, you know the saying, like when you change the way you look at things, the things
Yeah.
you look at change. That's really what I learned from you. You completely changed how I look at messaging, and also make me feel a lot more confident to share my message. And again, as I said earlier, when I crafted my TEDx talk, I was thinking about you. Is this like really like shift how people think about
Yeah.
education? So yeah, even to this day, when I craft my social media,
That's
everything.
amazing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I love doing like promoting BBD and working with the students is because James is so good at providing that like strategy, the systems, the process, a lot of that stuff. And then why I love doing it is I think we pick up and help support on a more close, intimate level, but also provide a lot of the messaging stuff that James doesn't go as in depth on. And so when you combine Business by Design with
Mm.
our package and our expertise, it's kind of like the perfect little combo. And so I remember when you came in, we started doing like our accelerator and our calls that we did with the BBD students. And I remember you coming on and telling me about your message and all and helping you craft those things and the thought reversals. I remember like loving your message. But then we got an email, I think pretty recently from you, or a message saying that you like had done a TED Talk based on a thought reversal, the title and all of this stuff. And now TED Talk wants to feature it on their website. So how did that happen? Like how can you walk me through the process of you like how did you create the title? How did we influence that in any way?
Yeah, because I think I was my biggest barrier, right? So I knew the message. I knew education is broken. I really wanted to share this message, but I never had the courage to share it. That's the first level. Second level is that I wanted to share this in a professional way to really make people think without
Yeah.
attacking people. So I don't know how to do that at all. I don't want to attack people, but I think the message is important that people need to understand. I had no idea how to do that. Yeah, you just showed up and teaching. I love you mentioned Brandon, like intimate group, and like I feel like as I become older, I have changed from being an extroverted person to an
Mm.
introverted person. So I think the small group is so amazing, right? There's so many coaching programs. They have like hundreds of people. You just feel like they don't really care
Right.
about you, but right, but for you, you really care about us. And when you review our messages, the additional live events that you organize, oh my goodness, I feel like I can rewatch them all the time to learn. So really appreciate how much you care about us, and the small group, the intimate environment makes it a lot easier for me to ask questions, to open up, to share challenges, and to gain feedback from you. And so that makes a huge difference. Like to be honest with you, I have programs I purchased I didn't even
Okay.
open because it's
Yeah.
so big, right? It's like but you are there for us. And that inspired me to show up for myself and also for you, because you really
Right.
care about us. It is a lot easier to do things for other people sometimes than actually do things for us. So I think that also makes a huge difference in terms of how much value I got out of the
Yeah, it does.
program.
And that's how we kind of position it is it's like it's mentorship. It's not like I'm going to give you guys a bunch of like more courses and more information and more things. It's not about that. It's about the
Mhm.
application. How do you take what you've gotten with James in Business by Design? How do we help you then adjust the messaging? But then how do we help you apply all of that to see extraordinary results inside of your business? And how do we help you avoid a lot of those mistakes?
Yeah, if I can add, my favorite part is that you actually reviewed our
Yeah.
script. You actually reviewed our script, and I still cannot believe that. That's amazing, because information. What I learned from my own experience is that information does not lead to transformation.
Right.
Application does. So oftentimes when I apply, I thought I did a good job, but nobody was there to review my work. Oh no, you are actually off track. But in my mind, okay, I got this, I got this. But then you reviewed our work. I was like, oh my God, yes, I didn't get this and that. So that made a huge difference and really shortened my learning curve than trying to figure
Yeah,
this out on
it
my own.
avoids a lot of the mistakes for sure. So when you went to go create your TED Talk, what was the title? I don't even think I know what the title was. Ended up being
So the title is School is Obsolete. What's
okay.
next? School is obsolete. What's next? Yeah, I mean, like, I got backlashes from professors, educators, as always. I like, what do you mean? They just think I hate them. But anyway, so that's the
Okay,
title.
and then and TED Talk put it on their website. Is that true? Like they featured it?
Yeah, they put on the TED main platform.
I
Yes,
love that. And
yes,
then how did
yeah.
you get interviewed by Katie Couric and Glamour and all that stuff?
So Katie Couric, I think it just like happened organically. And so one day I got an email from like Katie Couric's team. They're like, oh, Daring to Disrupt. That's the
Wow.
name of the series. I think, for me, because I really owned my message, I start to call myself a
Mm,
disruptor. And this series is called Daring to Disrupt. So they interviewed 4 disruptors this year. So I'm one of the lucky 4 to be interviewed by Katie Couric. So they reached out to me through an email. I had no connection. I have no
yeah.
idea who they are. And I told my husband, this is spam. I was like, why would they
Oh my
interview
gosh.
me? And you can see that I'm still working on my
Right.
inner work. But anyway, and I responded, and turned out everything was legit. And we spent 8 hours doing the filming, everything in the studio was really professional. I felt extremely intimidated by the entire experience, but I also learned a lot. And I think they discovered me through
Wow.
LinkedIn. I'm such an advocate of LinkedIn. I got quite a few leads from LinkedIn. Some of my biggest clients come from LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like amazing. I can't say enough about LinkedIn. Yeah. And just recently, LinkedIn launched a new feature on their profile. You can actually showcase a hyperlink. I don't know. This just came out yesterday. I was so excited. So I put my funnel, my evergreen webinar
Yeah.
on my profile. But yeah, they discovered me through LinkedIn, because on my LinkedIn, under my name, I have education
Mm,
disruptor. So I think what they did was that they were searching disruptors in
right.
different categories. I don't know why my name showed up. Maybe they also told me there was a long list of people they recommended to Katie Couric. So I'm one of the lucky 4 being selected. But I definitely think my LinkedIn name, my LinkedIn profile, and adding disruptor in my LinkedIn headline
Helped you.
made a
Yeah, for
difference.
sure. That's amazing. And then right now inside of your business, most of your revenue is from courses and working with people.
Yeah, so mostly, so as I said, I'm kind of like really burned out
Yeah.
from one-on-one coaching, very tired, because we homeschool
Mm,
our own children. Because of my perspective, I pretty much use my own
yeah.
curriculum on my own kids. So we homeschool our kids. I have 3 children, so that's a lot. And on top of that, I was doing one-on-one so much, I got really, really tired. So right now I'm just like just like wrapping up my one-on-one and moving to the group, and also starting my Facebook ads. I also build a funnel. It's an evergreen webinar I recently just finished recording. So that has been generating people to book calls with me. So kind of I'm in this transition
Yeah,
state
and
right
that's
now.
exactly how the process should go. In my opinion, it's always kind of like start off with, like a beta program or sell it before you make it, and then you kind of create it with people, and then you can do some one-on-ones and
See, I wish I learned
yeah.
that. Yeah,
And
I
that's
wish I
that's
learned
kind of the
that.
process. You get like the testimonials, you learn what's working and what's not working, and then you put it into like a course or a program, and then you can evergreen it or launch it or however you want. And so you're doing it, you've done it, and now you have a six-figure business. You get to homeschool your kids, you get to teach what you want to teach, and yeah, getting interviewed by Katie Couric and having a great TED Talk.
And you, and you,
Yep.
and you.
Yep, exactly. So I love it and I appreciate you coming on and telling your story with us. I do want to have you back to dive deeper into like the education side of things. I think we can have a great conversation about that. I love you. I love and am grateful for you for sharing your experience with BBD, working with us and joining BBD through us, because a lot of listeners may be on the fence about either joining or working with us. And so the last question I have for you is if there is anyone on the fence about joining BBD and working with James and buying through us, what would you tell them?
Don't overthink, just do it. Thinking this is what I recently learned. We need to make decisions from the future outcome, not based on our where we are now, this scarcity mentality, but actually make decisions from the future, from that future goal that we want to have, as opposed to where we are. So that's what I want to share. So
Yeah.
just do
And
it.
that's the thing is when you want to accomplish something. And I actually gave a talk to a high school class this morning about entrepreneurship. And yeah, and one of the things
Yeah.
that I told them was that when you want to accomplish something, it's outside the box of your thinking. You don't know how to create it. So think like keeping your thinking inside the
Mm.
box will basically make sure you never get there. But one of the ways to access that information that you need is working with mentors because they've already done it. And that's how we treat our affiliate program is like, I'm literally going to be mentoring you and your messaging and helping you navigate business by design and your message. And so that's how we designed it. So I thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to have the
100%.
team reach out to you today to get you back on the podcast to talk about education specifically. But again, I'm very grateful and so appreciative of you coming on and sharing your story. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so honored. You are so
Awesome.
welcome.
All right, everyone. For those of you who have not left us a review on iTunes, head over to iTunes, leave us a review if you love this podcast, and make sure you follow us over on Instagram at I am Brandon Lucero. And if you are on the fence about business by design, let us know. Shoot us an email, send us a DM. I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you feel like you need mentorship, well, join through us because that's exactly what we provide with our affiliate program package. And with that said, I'll see you guys all on the next episode. Take care, everyone. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested. And thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.